Yo, welcome to another episode of the Larry Ohh Show. I got my co-host with me again.
It's young hot me. It's humid in Rhode Island.
Yeah, it's very humid. We have a very special episode today. I'm Larry Ohh. Like always, this is a podcast for FL Studio users and everything music production.
Yep.
We have a very special guest today. You guys definitely know him.
Drum roll.
My best friend, Jacob. Yo,
Let's
thank
go.
you so much.
Your best friend me.
Your best friend me. Your friend me.
Welcome to the show.
Appreciate
Thank you
it,
for
guys.
being in with us.
People often get me and you confused, Larry. So
They do. I get it.
Maybe-
I mean, come on. We just, I look like I feel like
swap
I'm
me.
looking into a mirror right now.
I love it. We look beautiful.
We do. You twin me.
Yeah.
So again, thank you for joining us. Long time coming. I mean, we've never met in person, but we've just been like online social media friends for like, I don't even know now, probably 3 years ish, something
Yeah,
like
3-4
that.
years for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What have you been up to, man? What have you been? I've seen. Oh, first off, congratulations on the Grammy nomination. That's
Yes, sir.
massive.
Yes,
bro.
sir.
That's massive. That's
Congrats.
massive. That's your.
Yeah,
fir-
no, I appreciate that.
That's your first one, right?
Yeah, first Grammy nomination, and I've been waiting 20 years for that mail to show up with that Grammy nomination. It took a long time, you know. It was just one of those fulfilling moments, I'm sure, for any producer listening. And whether or not you really rock with the Grammys today, it just has that kind of like when you tell somebody you've been Grammy nominated or whatever, it
Yeah.
resonates with them.
Of
So,
course, man. That's
um,
incredible.
To check that off, well, you know, was just honestly is like a dream come true from when I was like 15 reading Scratch magazine.
I was gonna say,
you
yeah,
know?
15-year-old you is very, very proud, man.
Bro, that's
Congratulations.
massive. That's
so
massive.
cool.
That's massive, bro. How did that placement come about? Don't you have multiple placements on that album, or is that the only one on that one?
That's the only one on that album. Yeah, the way it kind of all came about, I scored Netflix's Look My Mic and Fly, which is the Travis Scott film.
Yeah, I remember that, bro. We got to talk about that too.
After that came out, I was invited to a Cactus Jack songwriting camp. It was at that camp that I met Alan Ritter. We exchanged phone numbers. I ended up sending him a loop pack. The very first loop pack in that was that loop. And so him and Metro ended up making a beat. And then I remember one day I had told my friend Nick about it, and he called me one day.
He's like, I was listening to Travis Scott's radio show on Apple Music. I think I heard your song. Like, did you do something with strings?
And I was like, no way, no way. And so obviously checked it out, and literally it was the song. He premiered it on the radio show. And I mean, I was over the moon, super thrilled, but I was also super scared. I was like, okay, is it just going to be something he premiered on his radio show?
Mhm.
And almost 2 years was kind of sitting on pins and needles.
Wow.
Finally released with Metro Boomin's Heroes and Villains, and then went on to get Grammy nomination. Also my first time going platinum as well too. So yeah, just a really
That's
kind
wild,
of
bro.
full circle moment too, just because when I finished the film, I was like, I had no placements at this time, by the way. But when I finished the film, I was like, I'm going to go from making a documentary about Travis Scott to actually like making music with him. To think that that actually happened is again, just like, it's just so crazy. It kind of blows my mind.
That's
you know?
wild,
It's
man.
crazy.
You start off making music like you just locked in a bedroom, you making beats, bang, 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 you figuring stuff out. And then over time, you have a vision for yourself. Like, what was your story kind of getting started? When did something click and you were like, I want to do this for real?
I feel like my story is very similar to many producers probably listening to the podcast. So if you're listening right now,
Yeah.
dreams can come true, because just as you
For
said,
real.
I was like 14, 15 years old. I got a copy of FL Studio, started making beats. That led to going to like engineer school. And for like roughly 10-ish years or so, I was kind of like on and off trying to pursue music, but never really kind of like fully got into it. I had a radio job. I was producing a national radio show here in Canada.
Wow.
I got into film stuff, which led me to doing the film with my best friend, White Trash Tyler, and a bunch of other things. Finally, after all of that kind of happened, I was like, you know what, I'm going to take this leap of faith. And so in 2018, I left my full-time job, great paying job. Finally, after, you know, close to a decade, I kind of climbed my way up in the radio world. I just said, you know what, if I don't chase my dreams, God forbid I'm on my deathbed and I'm like, you know, saying to myself, like, I really wish I would have actually given this a chance. 2018 going into 2019, quit my job. And that's kind of when I went all in on music and really started to perfect my craft, you know, actually kind of figure out what it really means to be a music producer, because one part of it is like the talent. And I would say this now, having been in it for a while, the talent is just a small portion of it. It's really the work ethic. It's the connections. It's like a million other things that need to happen behind the scenes for something to happen in your career. It's not just about how good you are at making beats. There's a million people that are way better making beats than me, probably listening to this podcast right now. But it's the other pieces to the puzzle that you need to have to really kind of make this a full-time career.
That's so true, man. That's just such a common thing that we hear everybody say ourselves. And then it just gets reassured when we have guys on like you that just are super successful, and everybody pretty much not has the same story, but has the same message. It's the same exact message no matter what.
I was going to say,
there's a pattern here. You know what I mean? It's like, Jacob, you hit the nail on the head. It's like, there's a million guys better than me, a million producers better than me,
right?
There's a million podcasters better than me, there's a million, you know, editors and Instagrammers better than me. But it's just a matter of putting all those pieces to the puzzle. It's a lot of networking, it's a lot of waiting around, it's a lot of just doing these little things throughout your life and your career. Like you said, 20 years. Like that's 20. This is 20 years in the making. People are right now listening to this podcast, watching the podcast, or just in general in other niches as well, not even just music production, are thinking, I could just like put up a video and I'm gonna be successful. Well, I've seen this guy just, you know, come up.
Well, you gotta lock in for real.
Yeah, you gotta like live
Jake,
it.
You were locked in. You were living how you were living, going hard in everything that you were going for.
You gotta be comfortable, like not doing anything,
and
like,
you were ready
for a long time. Like
you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yes,
you know?
sir.
And you know, one of the pieces of advice I'll give everyone too here is just like, I heard this from my friend's dad a long time ago, but it's like, you will never work a day in your life if you actually like what you're doing.
Fact.
You know, and I really have a passion for this. And to your point, like, for those multiple years, there were so many ups and downs, highs and lows. The thing that kept me consistent and persistent was my passion, was my love for music, regardless of if this ever worked out for me, I was still going to be making beats. That's just what I love to do. So, you know, for anybody listening, and this is why the podcast is so great, because not only can you hear these type of stories, but like if you really love music, listen to the podcast, dive into the tutorials, do the things to improve your craft, because the more that you discover how much you love music, the more you'll be able to withstand some of those highs and lows. It's a long time to get to a place where, like, you know, this type of stuff can happen. So you got to have the passion to kind of see it all the way through.
100%, man.
And to go back a little bit on what you said too, like about the ups and the downs. I've said this a lot in the past, and maybe it's like a little bit of like delusion in a sense that I feel like I've had over the years of just like doing it no matter what. You'll get like a little bit of encouragement, or you feel like there's a little bit of one little thing happens like at a show that you play, or one little thing happens online, and you're like, all right, there's the potential that I know I have. There's the little bit of, you know, a sign of me like kind of like moving in that right direction. And I'll just get these like little stupid signs throughout my life and through my career, and I'm like, all right, I gotta keep going.
You're on the path.
I gotta keep going.
Yeah, we call that the path. You know what I'm saying? You're on the path, bro.
It all compounds. I think there's like a math thing. It's like, if you just get better 1/10 of 1% every day over, I think it's like maybe 5 years or so, you're like, you know, 10,000 times better than where you started. But every single day, it's like that very tiny bit of success, that tiny bit of, wow, that actually worked, and all this other stuff didn't, you know? But that adds up, it compounds. And when it starts compounding, it's like, once you get that ball rolling, it's actually hard to get it to stop. You know what I mean? For anybody that's right now kind of waiting, stop waiting. Go out, grab it, get it, do what you need to do. There's going to be highs and lows, but as we just said, you can persevere through it if you have that passion, that persistence, and that consistency.
At bats.
100%. Yep.
At bats. Yep. At bats, bro.
Yeah, I mean, think of it in a baseball term. If there's any baseball fans, the best baseball players in the world only get 3 hits out of 10 at bats.
Yeah.
Those are the best players in the world. Not 9 out of 10, 3.
I heard this little bit of game recently that was, if you haven't heard no, you haven't asked enough people yet. And I was like, I heard that. Wild, right? I love that, man. Especially like going back to the passion thing. Like what I can really appreciate is that, I don't know, like you're clearly very passionate based on your own story, but also like the nature of the things that you put out there is also very positive. And like, I don't know, man, when I watched a little bit of a video before I got on here, and you were messing with Slice X. And just everything from like the pacing of the video to how you kind of came in with it was like real smooth. And I wanted to commend you on that. And also, you were using Slice X like a G. I was like, the Slice
He's a beast
X,
on there.
I was like, yo.
I mean, we get all the Grammy
I'm a
talk out of
sample
the
guy.
way.
I love the
we get the
samples
placement
and all.
talk out of the way. But bro, like this guy knows his FL studio.
Bro, and that made me want to chop up on Slice X right now, tonight.
That's the fun stuff, the geeking out, you know, like remove all of this stuff. We're still just going to geek out and have fun, especially in FL Studio, especially with the new update.
Oh, bro. I wish this podcast could be 3 hours long. I wish it could, because we got so much to talk about. Like, let's hop into some FL Studio stuff.
Right on.
What are your favorite 2024 features right now? It's the hot topic right now.
I think it's called Snap to MIDI. Sorry, Snap Income MIDI, I think it's what it's called. I actually just put a post up on it today, but it's one of the coolest features. So anyway, long story short, any note that you play on your MIDI controller will be in the correct scale. Let's just say we open up the chord progression tool. Let's say it spits out C minor or whatever. Well, then now the other instruments that you open, they're all going to be labeled as C minor. And as long as you have snap incoming MIDI, everything you push will be in scale. So you instantly now go from like, okay, I got to know exactly what I'm doing on the keyboard. So like now I can start freestyling. And like the cool part about it is like most of us at the end of the day, we kind of know that rhythm. We're like, dun, 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 or whatever we want to do, whether we want to go up or down. Now you just got to press the actual notes on your keyboard up and down to kind of correlate, and it's actually going to be in key. So that has been a game changer, as well as the chord progression tool. I love the fact that we're finally starting to get some shortcuts, not all the shortcuts that I want. I want way more. I want more control, but that's been great. Yeah, just overall, it's been a really fun experience, and I'm still figuring stuff out, man. I'm still constantly learning, because I actually don't think they put out the full manual yet, which I will say for anybody, if you've ever looked at something inside of FL, but you've never actually like explored it, you should just search it into the manual, because you find so many cool little tips and tricks, how you can right click this and do this, just things that you wouldn't even think possible inside of FL. Like it's such a comprehensive program. And like I literally scored the film in FL Studio, which is kind of crazy. I think I'm probably maybe one of the first, I'll say, people to score a film in FL Studio.
First that I've ever seen.
Video player. Yes. You can literally make any of that type of stuff happen there, so yeah.
Yeah, well, you mentioned like the user manual too. Like I'm sure there's a lot of people like me where it seems like I feel like John and you might be like really into reading. I can't pay attention like while I'm reading stuff. My mind just like drifts. It's ADD, whatever the hell it is. I'll
be skipping words.
You know what I'm saying? I'll read something and think of a whole nother scenario while I'm reading the whole paragraph. So like I've always been a visual learner. I've always been a hands-on learner when it comes to school, when it comes to music production. That's why I feel like the timing was just right where I started to learn FL Studio, and there started to be some videos. Early on, I had to do a little bit of reading, but most of my learning was just like stumbling on things myself and probably taking a harder route. But what they updated recently is, I don't know if you've seen it, Jacob, where now you can choose to have the user manual pop up in the side column, and then a video pops up there as well for almost everything, because it's pulling all that information from their website. So they really didn't plan it like that, but just think of the years and years that they've been compiling all the stuff on their website and all the videos that they've been making. Now it's like starting to
click.
Yeah, and just be like kill 5 birds with 1 stone type of thing. You know what I mean? Like they have literally everything they need, but you do have to switch that setting, which is the only thing. It should be default.
Yeah, no, there's so many incredible things that you can do with it. Again, until we get the full manual, I'm excited to see all of the stuff. I found, even for content, a key to my success with some of the videos that have gone viral is reading the manual, and you'll find these things that you're just like, oh my God, FL Studio does that. And as soon as that happens, you realize, I guarantee other people don't know this. And that's usually the bits of like content that I end up shooting and stuff. Yeah. There's so much.
Content gems.
No, that is a content gem. And I feel like some of the best stuff that I've like put out, it might be a mix of the two, where I'm like, I'm not forcing the content. I'm in the middle of like making a beat for somebody or mixing vocals, doing something in FL. And I'm like, yo, this would make a really good video right now. I'll stop what I'm doing. I'm in the process sometimes, and I'll stop. And I'll be like, yo, if I don't do it right now and just start like making a piece of content out of this, I'll forget it and I won't do it.
What I like about that is that it's like fulfilling a need, right? And just doing a little bit of research, just like this trifecta plugin that you're putting out that you got. Talk a little bit about that, because that's crazy to me that you have a plugin that knows the accompaniment of like what's your lead or whatever. You know what I mean? I love that idea, man. That's amazing.
I can't even wait to tell you what we're working on. It's going to come out in a couple weeks, because if you think trifecta's cool, next thing, let me tell you, when I started scoring, I found Spitfire, and I realized, like, here's this company and they do all these amazing products for people that score films. Why isn't there something like that for rap producers? Like, I wanted to scratch my own itch, and that's when I got into making plugins. The first one, Octave, which became Octave Deluxe. Then we have Scorch, then we have Trifecta, and then we have the next one coming out here. And it's been kind of like, in a weird way, as fulfilling, if not more fulfilling, than some of my own musical achievements. Because I'm seeing from producers and hearing my sounds in music, like there was a Baby Keem and Kendrick Lamar Range Brothers track that came out. That's Octave Deluxe sounds. But also to just see how many people have not only responded to the plugins, but like when I get tagged in their beat videos and stuff, I'm like, it's kind of crazy and cool to think that like I've created something that's helping them with their passion. You know what I mean? And I think that has been like this super, super rewarding and fulfilling thing that I didn't know was going to happen. when I first started, like I said, I was kind of just scratching my own itch. I was like, this is
Mm-hmm.
something I want. Maybe other people will want it. Well, you actually can, because we got the camera here.
Mhm.
As you can see, everyone watching at home, we have synths, and I love to stack my synths on top of each other. Sometimes I'll have 3 of them on top of each other. And that's kind of what inspired Trifecta, because when I have the synths that way, and you'll see this in like Mike Dean's studio, a bunch of big producer studios, it's like they can play and have multiple sounds right there. And for me, I just became used to that workflow. I was like, why isn't there anything like this inside of my computer? And so for me, it was like, can we create an instrument that essentially is 3 instruments in one? So you get the 3 layers. And if you can do that, you can have bass down here, you can have your chords here, and you can have your melody here. You just split the piano roll, and that way you have access to all your sounds in one place, which
I
is
love
just
that.
like,
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
I think the big thing for me when it comes to plugins and technology is like, I might not get it right all the time, guys, but I'm really trying to push the limits. I feel like for myself, I see a lot of the same products over and over again.
Yeah.
Vintage this, remodel of this. For myself, I'm trying to just do something that's different. And if it hits, it hits. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But my whole goal is to just try and push things forward. And if I can do that and put my little fingerprint stamp on some records and some people's like, great moments and stuff, then that's cool as well too. But yeah.
Yeah, man, I think the stuff that you put out is like super innovative, and I haven't seen anything like the stuff that you put out. Like, just for instance, that brings me on to something else. Like the majority of your melodies, do you feel like they're done with the hardware synths, or do you feel like they're done with a lot of plugins, or is it like a 50-50 thing? Like, what is it?
60-40 synths, and then what's inside the computer. It really depends. I have my studio. I just built it in the last year here. And so I finally have a place where I'm super comfortable and have all my stuff ready to go how I like it. But like I did pretty much that whole film and stuff. That was all just my laptop with plugins and stuff. I've gotten placements strictly with inside of the DAW. So, I think for myself, it's just more like a comfort thing. I actually like tangible physical things. And I find sometimes that's what kind of inspires, especially for the plugins and stuff. I'm like, okay, I get inspiration from these tangible things. How can I make them digital and bring that to FL Studio and all these other stuff? Yeah.
That's awesome, man. To go back, jumping around a little bit here, the placement that got you the Grammy nomination, you said you made that main sample that's in there, right? What did you use to make that?
A free contact instrument called, I think it's Allison Strings. It was Christian Henson, before he started Piano Book, was just putting out free instruments. And so it was an instrument that he put out. Yeah, I used those string sounds. I also used, at that time, I was really into Spitfire stuff. So I also believed I used another Spitfire piano. And then I'm kind of blanking on whatever else I would have used.
And was it flipped at all from the original thing that you made? Was it like changed around? Was it rearranged?
That's a great question. It's so funny. The original sample, I think I did it in what that would be like 2019 or so.
Yeah, 'cause you said it was a few years before it, like you heard anything.
I think that they switched the key. I'd have to go back to the original sample and take a listen. I know they definitely sped up the BPM, and I know Alan added piano on top of what I did. So like in Niagara Falls, when you take a listen, I did like the strings and all those pieces. And then when it cuts into the dun, 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 that's what Alan did. And, I wasn't there for the actual putting together of all the pieces. That was Alan and Metro. So I'm not really sure how everything kind of came together. But Alan actually did a breakdown of the beat on his, I think it's Sound Nerds. He has a YouTube channel for everybody that wants to check it out. He does
cool.
VST Tuesdays, where every Tuesday he'll just show new VSTs that he's loving and stuff like that. So that's definitely like a hidden little gem if producers want to go check that out. Big shouts out to Alan Ritter.
That's awesome, man.
I love that idea, like Scott's Camp, just like pulling everything apart, tweaking everything, pulling things. Like, I just love his production style. I've always I could nerd out on that alone. It's just like the production value behind some of the stuff. So
hell yeah,
that's amazing, man.
I think another thing too, for maybe people listening, it's like you have an idea of how the music gets made, but how it actually gets made is just like so different. Pretty much all of my placements have happened like via email or text, but that's all happened because I've actually met the person and like built a relationship or so. Like I've never personally, and I'm sure it happens for other people, but I know in general, you meet somebody, you chop it up with them. It could be years before finally you get something that happens together. And so it's funny and interesting. Sometimes like a lot of the records, I don't hear them till they even come out. You know what I mean? And so I'm hearing them at the time and I'm like, I know that this sample got cleared for it or this thing or whatever. And then I hear it all together and I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. My idea and how I had it turned into this other thing. But like Vince Staples' Magic is a great example of that. One of my favorite records that I was a part of. And that one was like,
that
really
album's
thrilling.
Man, that whole album's incredible too. You heard that yet? man.
Yep. Unreal. So maybe to hop back into some FL stuff, if you can, off the top of your head, you might have just mentioned one, but I was thinking like a top 3 favorite FL Studio shortcuts or features. Like your top 3, if you had to choose. If I had to say you're only left with these 3, like you have to get rid of all the other shortcuts in FL,
Sheesh.
all the other features in FL, or the shortcuts, but you can only keep these 3.
If we're gonna go just the 3, these are my desert island 3. Might shock you guys. Control A, Control C, and Control V. Very simple.
There you go.
I'm gonna select all. I'm gonna copy and I'm gonna paste.
All right.
Those are like of all the the keys. Those are the burnt out ones.
Yeah.
So there's all these other great features and stuff like that. But I use a lot of Control A, Control C, and Control V. I will say though, because I do have I did this with my editing career and stuff. Like I love the fact that in Premiere Pro and in the Adobe programs, you can pick your own shortcuts. And I would love if anybody from Image Line is listening.
We have
to this,
some.
I know you, but only a couple.
Only
I know
a couple.
They
They gotta make that list like this.
Yes, because to be honest with you, there's so many short commands that I'm like, I would use it, but my fingers don't work that way. I can't be holding Control and P and a 2 over here. You know what I mean? I'm gonna look crazy in the studio.
Arthritis.
Arthritis, eh? So yeah, I would love to see that become a reality for sure.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what they're gonna do with that, because right now it's like 7. There's like 7 of them that you can like change around. If I could pick one shortcut feature that I would like never get rid of, or like if I can only keep one, the one thing for me would be the zoom with a mouse, like with a mouse wheel, like the control and scroll. I do that like 99% of the time while I'm making a beat. I'm like scrolling, zoom, or alt, control, zoom, like nonstop. That would probably be like my one thing that I would keep.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
Okay, so what would you do if they gave you the keys to the kingdom? You could fix FL Studio in any way, add anything to improve it. What would you guys do? What would be something that you would love to see included to improve the general user's workflow?
All right, so they are making massive steps in this direction, and I've thought about this for a while, is like the recording side of things, like the audio recording side of things. It's almost to the point now where like if you do a little bit of work to it and you create your template and you lock things in the playlist, it's pretty similar to a Pro Tools or a Cubase now, but just maybe like changing up that interface side of things. Like me and Elgene talked about this a while back. And if they made like a recording mode where you could switch FL into like a recording mode and it just changes the interface in a way where it's so much more like user-friendly, because that would be the only thing. But I've gotten so used to FL and recording that way that it's not a huge deal to me at all whatsoever. It might be for somebody that's coming from a Pro Tools or a Cubase into FL and wanting to make beats and record, wanting to like do everything in one DAW. It might be a big deal for them, but me having to, been doing this for a long time now, recording in FL, it's not a huge deal. But if there would be one thing that I would say like, oh, I want to change this. Other than that, man, I think the stuff that they've done is mostly stuff that I would never even think about doing, but I'm sitting here and I'm like, these are the best new features in the world. It's just like one after another of like amazing new feature and features that I didn't even know that I needed. But one thing would be like the recording side of thing. What about you?
I thought of 1,000 things just now when you were talking. I was like, when you were talking, it's that meme with all the calculus going on. I was like, damn.
MIDI patterns. And
but then I was also like troubleshooting like an idea that I had where it was just like, I'll record at my house a lot. My setup is very simple and janky. I like it that way. That's how I get my grit on my stuff. Sometimes I have to like lean down and press even the key, and that's a lot. What if there was a way that you could like trigger the mic to turn on and start recording? You could set a mode. There's like a code, like a word that happens,
like voice control. Yeah,
you just say punch.
That's gonna get there, I think.
You know what I'm saying? Like do something like that where like if you're on a minimal setup in a hotel and you just getting some work done.
Because if you're by yourself, especially,
you gotta like yeah. So that can be a pain in the ass.
Like, hey, FL Studio, record. Hey, FL Studio,
yeah.
punch it.
Every time I want you to record, I'm gonna say, do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of things now that are just making that move of hands-free everything.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, look at our everyday life now. How many times are you voice texting, especially in the car? Like I have like the, you know, the Apple CarPlay or whatever, and I'm able to now text as if, you know, I'm typing just using my voice, and it's super accurate. There's a lot of things that are going to get, you know, they're going to get there.
Is they got to get those microphones better at like cutting through wind. Like my AirPods today, I was talking and the wind was, and it was misconstruing my words. I was like, they got to get a better like noise gate or something on this.
We got to get the new
work in tandem. Yeah.
new AirPods.
Yeah, I'm gonna need the newest.
This might be a good point to like break it up. I don't know if you've seen some episodes where we do a keyword for everybody that can post in the comments to enter the giveaway. We do a giveaway every single week. Recently, I've been giving away all of my FL Studio courses every single week to 5 people in the comments. I don't know if you want to add to that. You can.
Do I ever? Let's do it.
All right. Whatever you want to give, you can actually do the keyword or the key phrase as well. You are the guest.
I'll go with your best friend me.
All right. There we go. Your best friend me in the comments. 5 winners are going to be getting every single one of my FL Studio courses and whatever.
5 winners are going to be getting every single plugin off the website. Trifecta, Scores, Octave Deluxe. You guys can
man. Wow, that's massive.
Way to go, man. This is nuts.
Yeah.
This is nuts.
In the comments, type your best friend me and you're entered.
Seriously.
And then next week we'll be picking 5 winners. And also, I didn't mention at the beginning of the episode, but I'll be pinning the winners from last week's in the top of the comment section as well here on YouTube. If you're listening somewhere in your car or wherever,
get in on the comments.
Get on YouTube. That's where all the fun happens.
Get in on the comments right now, because
Facts.
that's massive.
Yep.
That's crazy.
How about stock FL plugins? How do you feel? Do you touch them?
all the time.
Yeah.
Love them.
Aside from like Slice X, but like the synthesizer plugins, you messing with those a lot?
I really got into like it's GMS, right? I just want to make
GMS,
sure.
yeah, I love GMS.
Yeah. Like GMS, a bunch of the stuff that they've put out are actually really, really good. It's funny. I was just watching Cardo Got Wings. He did an interview with Lucid Monday, and he was in there. I think he was on Citrus or GMS, one of them. He's like, man, I haven't used this in forever, and he was having a blast. And yeah, I really think that they've stepped up and improved the majority of their like synth plugins, as well as all the effect plugins. Like the effect plugins that they've added are just phenomenal. On top of that, when you get into Patcher and you start routing things and creating things, like endless opportunities. So yes, I am a huge fan of all. Like I use the stock reverb, the stock delay, the stock EQ. Like I pretty much use all of those.
Which delay guy are you? Fruity Delay 3. Me too.
Number
Me
3.
too, bro. Once that came out, I've never looked back at Fruity Delay 2. I have not turned my back one time and looked at
make
that
that
thing.
meme. Make that meme of the dude looking at the.
Bro, yeah. Oh man, I haven't looked back at it. There's just so many things. Even if it's just for a basic, like just basic, what do you call it? Basic delay. But it can do so much more than that too.
Yeah, it's a great sound design tool. Like you can literally make like a vinyl wobble happen.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you could do some wild stuff.
There's so many cool things that you can do with it.
I don't know if you want to screen share or record or I mean, just show or explain how somebody would make like a vinyl wobble or a different kind of effect with Delay 3.
Put me on the spot, will you?
You want to do it?
Yeah, do it. Let's do it. Let's get to it.
This guy knows this.
And this is where you guys all find out I actually don't even know how to use FL Studio. It's been a whole lie the whole time.
This guy uses Logic. I knew it.
I actually put
I got some plugins. Look at this.
I actually made a bunch of my own effects and stuff. So I do have like vinyl saturation. I have a wobble and stuff in here. But I believe, and I'm gonna have to do this on the fly here. I believe so. I mean, it is the modulation. So actually, let me just quickly go into Scorch and turn off the delay.
I love Scorch, by the way, bro. Great job with that one.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much. First thing that we will do is we'll keep it up wet. We are going to bring the time down. So now we have something like this, which is kind of like a flanger already. You can play with the feedback, get some really cool sounds there. But then if you come into the modulation and you turn this up, see how it just got really wobbly there?
Crazy.
So when you start getting that to a perfect kind of amount, and this would sound really good with like a piano, maybe a synth's not the best way to kind of showcase this.
No, that sounds pretty good to me though.
That's when you start getting that kind of modulation from what it was before.
And then if you mess with the ping pong, this is something that I can't even remember. If you change it to ping pong, does it do anything?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
It just spreads it.
Yeah, I didn't know if it did it because you turn the delay time down, if it like disabled the ping pong side of things, delay model. Oh yeah, that's fire.
Yeah, I actually think just so let's check. Yeah, that's more of a wobble there. Like,
yeah, that's really stereo right there.
Yeah, so you can do some really cool sound design tricks.
Oh yeah.
I absolutely love this. Yeah, and the feedback, specifically the cutoff. What I'll often do. Let me just maybe go back to a default. So we have this default here. What I'll do is I'll bring this cutoff down and I'll bring the tone up. And it's just a subtle way to have these. You know what I mean? It's like, it's really big, but it's not taking all of the space because you're getting rid of those highs and stuff. And you're kind of just like thinning it out. So it's just a great way to thicken up your synths. Definitely love this on pianos and stuff as well. I was just going to say, and the last thing, I know maybe I'm doing too much here.
Nah, never too much, bro.
One of my favorite tricks is the kind of classic Travis Scott. He'll be like straight up, and it will kind of go crazy. Like you can do this. A lot of people love to say the Space Echo and the Space Echo plugins and stuff, but you can actually do that as well too by automating the feedback level here. So if I just, I don't know, come over here. This is actually, I need you guys to figure this one out.
I couldn't figure it out, bro. I saw I already know what you're gonna say. I saw your post yesterday, and I have no idea. I don't think I think that it's just something that they might have gotten rid of.
Yeah. Okay. So for anybody out there, I used to be able to double click on pattern and it would open my playlist. Now, for some reason, it opens up the piano roll. If you can fix this, you also, on top of the 5 people, can win everything off of the website. Because I definitely need to get.
So
this
you still haven't found anybody that knows it yet.
Haven't figured.
And when you posted that, to be honest, bro, when you posted that, I was shocked that even was a thing because I didn't even know that. I never even used it like that. I'm old school with it. I wouldn't even use a shortcut for it. I'm like literally going up to the icon and clicking it. I'm like old school.
Pop. That was great. So yeah, if you play with this feedback, and especially too, if you come down here to the wet, also create an automation clip. Again, see how I just did that? I meant to open up the playlist. It's throwing me off.
It's your workflow, bro.
And you go.
Oh, it's crazy.
You know, just stop. And then if you want the last little touch on that, if you want to really go crazy, is to play with the time. So again, we're going to create automation. Maybe I'll bring this up to 160 just so we can hear this a little bit faster. And then finally, we'll go like this, and I'll actually just slide these over so it's a little bit quicker for you guys. So we're going to be playing with the time, which is like kind of what the Space Echo will do. Well, we're also rising the feedback. So you
go. Wild,
so you
bro.
get these really, really cool, interesting, you know?
Yeah.
Really cool effects
Crazy,
and stuff.
man. And I don't think like if you played that for somebody and you said, all right, name this effect. What did I just do to this?
Right.
Even if it's like
guess that plugin.
like a guess that plugin type of thing, but guess this effect. What did I do to this? What did I do?
Yeah.
That would be a cool little game show. That would be cool.
You're gonna have to add it. You're gonna have to add it to the show.
That's good though, man. It just like goes to show you like what you can do with just delay alone. Like just delay. You don't need anything fancy. You got a stock delay like delay 3.
Yeah.
And you can make it sound like you've put a chain's worth of plugins on it.
Jacob, how soon, like after you started making beats and all, did you kind of like, there's a lot of like great sound design tips in this. There's a lot of like great processing tips. So when did you start kind of like messing around with this kind of, I don't know, you mentioned also patcher. It's like, that's sound design, baby. This is crazy.
I think the answer to it is like when I actually had time. So when I quit my job and I was able to go in full time, that's when I was really like, okay, what does this actually do? Before that, yes, I was good at making beats, but I had more of that surface level of like, this is just how I make my beats and I kind of make them the same way every single time versus, you know, once I started getting into the sound design and buying some synths and understanding those processes, that's where things became like really interesting. Even like a very small one, if I just go and grab actually, Larry, I got your pack here.
Hey,
grab one of Larry's, maybe a pad. Perfect. Listen, you literally don't need to leave the sampler here.
Facts.
There is so much amazing stuff that you can do with the sampler. So just even by coming in here, and a lot of people haven't really fooled around with this. So right now we have this note right here. You have cutoff, you have filter. You have all of those things accessible to you. Not only that, you can automate them. So you can automate all these by going to your mod X or your mod Y. But what I find is really interesting is the pitch here. And this is something that you would do on, or that you would see happen on like a classic synth. you would have an LFO attached to pitch. And so right now, if we turn on this envelope and we bring up this here, I believe we will actually hear this get really wobbly. See how it got quite wobbly there?
Yep.
We're going to turn up the speed. We're going to turn up the delay, and we're going to turn up the amount. So the way that this is kind of working right now, if we turn up that speed, this is the wobble that's happening. And what I just did is I put on a delay. So that way, when you come here and you hit the note, see how that's the delay and stuff. And so there's a lot of cool sound design tricks that you would have on all of these classic analog synths, and they're right here in the sampler, and a lot of people don't know about them. And it's just like, it's crazy the amount that you can do. And then finally, let's say we came in here and we fooled around with all these LFOs, the cutoff, the mod X, the panning. That's another thing, like automating, whatever you want to do. The last piece of the puzzle, which I think is really cool, is all you have to do is go up here and go save channel state as, and you just save this as a template. Now, anytime you want to use, I know people do this all the time. I see it all the time. They have their drums or their 808s where they come in here to the volume and they're consistently adjusting so that the 808 will cut off.
The box.
You only need to do it. You only need to do it once, save it as a template, and then every single time you can just drag any one shot into these pre-made samplers that you have, and you don't have to redo all of that hard work. So
yeah, that's a good way around it. You know what I did too is I feel like we talked about it one time with somebody, and it might have been Frank Pohl, or I can't remember exactly, but what I started doing is I made it like a session template where I literally have like 8 empty channel racks in there in the step sequencer, and all of them like have the box on it, like that boxed out thing, essentially like the same thing. But that's something that I've never really done either, is like save the preset inside the sampler like that. I should start doing it like that too.
Yeah, there's some crazy, even to like anybody, if you've explored, like if you use a lot of automation clips. So I don't do like EDM, but like I'm sure I know for a fact in EDM, lots of automation and stuff. One of the things that you can do is you can go file export, and you can actually export the project bones, which is all that data. And what it will do is actually export those automation clips. Then you can drag them back in and have them saved here. So now when you want that classic automation, rather than needing to redo it, you just drag it over, and then once you drag it over, you can just assign it to your kick or your pad like you did in the previous one. So there's just so many little hacks and stuff like that that can really increase your workflow.
Massive time savers. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I feel like when we talked about this recent update last week and the week before, I told John, I was like, you know what? It seems like after a week of 24 being out, the biggest things that happen, obviously, like is with the plugin picker. You know, the new plugin through the cloud. That's like their biggest thing. But what I've been seeing too, like just in the comments and in general online, is the shortcuts that people are talking about. Like, you know, I didn't think in a million years it would be the biggest thing, but in one of my videos in the comment section, the biggest thing was the make unique shortcut that we have now. Like that was one of people's favorite things. All that is a stupid make unique shortcut, and everybody's going crazy about it. Why? Because it's making people just little by little, faster and faster. People are starting to get the ideas out and just get those things that they know are kind of like mundane, and it's like, all right, I got to click this drop down menu. They're eliminating steps, and that's huge to people.
Yeah,
it's huge.
100%.
I noticed you got this Moog thing up there. What's that about? That MIDI.
I'm really glad you asked me about this, because not a lot of people know that you can control all of your synths with the MIDI out inside of FL Studio. So the way that I have this working is I have a MIDI splitter. So every single one of the synths that are behind me all are on different channels. So if I want to control the Moog one, it's on 1. I know if I come up here to, I believe 5 is my take 5. I come over here to 6. That's where I have my Trigon 6. My Prophet, all the stuff is hooked up. And then I'm able to actually take over MIDI files and or actually just play here, because I'm not the best player. Like, I don't really know music theory and stuff like that. So that way I can get the analog sound. And what's really cool about this too is I can loop this for like, let's call it 2 minutes. Then I can fool around with all the knobs because I'm not playing anything, right? And I'm recording back into FL Studio. So I'm getting these crazy effects and things that naturally I don't have 2 hands when I'm playing, so I wouldn't be able to do that, right? So this is like a really cool hack. And then the last thing I'll say too is you can actually set these up to control the knobs on the synths.
So you can map it. You can map
by
them?
mapping the CC. So if I come down here and I open up, so I have my Moog here I have on this, I have my ladder cut off. And you know, and I have that there.
Wow.
I come over here, I have, and again, these are all pages. So I can go to my modulations here on my Moog
That's
1.
unbelievable.
All these are mapped. And I can fool around with those. And then I go to my oscillators. And then the last gem, this is a big gem. And I don't even know if I should be sharing this one. This is I don't know if I want to give away my secrets here, guys. I like you guys. So one of the cool things that you can do, I know you asked about sound design, and sound design's hard. It's hard to get into it and to understand. This has been a hack that I learned, which kind of teaches you sound design and helps you make your own cool sounds. So in every single plugin, doesn't matter what you're using, you can hit, actually you go in here and you can actually hit randomize. And what I found is for my synths, what I'll do, random. So all of the things that I don't want affected on my synths, like volume, the pitch and like the tune and stuff, like I want it to be in tune. All of that stuff will not be affected. I only have hooked up right now the things that I want affected, like the pulse width, the mix, the triangle, all of these pages of modulations. So now anytime I want to like have like a starting base for a brand new preset, I come in here, I hit randomize. Every single one of these knobs just turned. But the knobs that I didn't want to turn, like volume, for instance, because if you do this with a random plugin, you're going to realize like, oh, I can't even hear anything. It's because the volume's down or the pitch is off or whatever. So yeah, you can come in and you can control just certain knobs. And this has been like the starting point for a lot of like my sound design.
Wow.
It's like, it's a great way to kick off because these are things like I probably wouldn't have discovered, you know what I mean? It's like, so yeah, it's just a really cool thing. That
this is wild to me, bro, because this is a side of FL Studio that I feel like 98% of producers never get into, never dive into because they just don't have the hardware to go along with it. But there's a decent amount of producers that are like utilizing synths and hardware like this. And I mean, this is just huge. The workflow that I personally didn't know it was this in depth because the furthest I go is I'm using a MIDI controller. I've never had synths. I've never had stuff like this to where I had to learn MIDI controls like this, but this is unreal to me. And the fact that FL just has this, and it's a side of FL that I personally have never really been able to dive into because I just didn't have the hardware for it. But that's amazing, bro. And then, so
this is probably a pretty old feature too.
Oh yeah,
because
because
one of the
MIDI,
original features.
Yeah. You know, it's incredible.
yeah, because people started out with hardware, and they're probably they're coming along in their a digital workstation, right? And there's not many of them, especially when they're made for production. You know what I mean? That's why FL got a bad rap at the very beginning because it's like, you mean to tell me like you're not hitting any buttons, you're just using your mouse? So that they catered to the producers that had the hardware right at the beginning, which I never had and a lot of other guys never had. But I mean, just the fact that that's there is unreal. And the fact that you can fine tune and customize things like that to that degree is unreal to me. And
yeah, and it doesn't even have to be just with analog external gear because you can route all this internally, right? So a lot of the stuff that I'm showing you can happen with just your average stock plugins or external third-party plugins as well too. So there's a lot that you can do with the routing and stuff to just really, I mean, to be honest with you, with a lot of the plugins that I create, I usually prove my theory first by using what's inside of FL Studio and using Patcher, because like by doing all this routing, that's where I was able to come up with like a trifecta and be like, oh, you actually can play 3 sounds at once and have this work correctly, you know? So like anything that you guys want to try and do literally is possible. And then once you prove your theory, scratch your itch, you can take it to that next level, whether it's creating a product or not. But like everything, you have the same controls that I do. You know what I mean? You just got to spend some time exploring.
so you can just like with one of your synths, right? Because the information's flowing like this, you could drop a MIDI, like a melody MIDI file into that track, and it will play the patch that you have inside of your synth.
100%. Yeah, it'll play it. I even have it hooked up. I mean, the way it works with my Moog 1 right now, these are all the stock old patches that I guess used to hook up to something, but they don't hook up to anything. Well, I have them hooked up to my Moog. So my Moog has batches of like presets. And so if I want to switch the presets, I actually just come here. So I literally can control my Moog 1 literally from the computer. And there's no software right now that even exists for me to be able to do that. I just have it all CC mapped. And like I said, I have all these different pages for the oscillators, for the mods, whatever I need, I have it here. And I have that for all of my synths. And then, yeah, I can come up and grab a MIDI. I just drag and drop it here. And like I said, now I hit record. I let it loop for like 2-3 minutes. And that's where I'm twisting all the knobs live and creating really cool pieces for the loops, because I think like that's where the textures and like the special moments happen when you turn a knob and you weren't expecting that feedback or that thing. Once you get all that into the audio, you come into FL, you chop it, you move it around, boom, you have this amazing 30-second loop that you like traditionally wouldn't have been able to do unless you're like an automation god and you can like make everything go, you know? So it's like it's being digital and analog, tangible with the digital, you know? It's giving you both opportunities.
That's awesome.
This is making me want to cook up right now.
I know. That's why I get so inspired when we do these. When we do these podcasts, especially with guests and guys like you, man, it's like I instantly get inspired and want to start cooking up like right now. But I guess like one of the main things that I think is probably like the hardest thing for a lot of up and coming producers is like the melody side of things, right? You have a lot of producers starting out and sampling because maybe they can't play keys and they can't like just click notes in and it just doesn't come out right. Like what advice would you give to a producer that wants to get to that next level of melody creation?
It's a great question. And I feel like the question I would have give before this FL update is different than what I would give today. So to be honest with you, this is my new path forward because I struggle with melodies and stuff too. But this new, and I'll just maybe just show you live, like we can kind of do something right now. If that's cool.
Yeah.
So let's just say we have this pattern. I'm just going to go Alt P. That's going to open up the chord generator, right? So we're just going to play this and just see what it sounds. That's pretty fine. I'm happy with that. Maybe we want to go a bit more adventurous. Put this on random. Hit generate. Now we're in C minor. One more. No. Come on. Okay. Ooh, this is sounding good. That's fire. Let's turn this down a little. So we just randomly used AI, which is, you know, listen, AI is here. We should embrace it. And I think the way that FL is including AI is like a perfect taste. It's not trying to take away your creative process, it's trying to help you.
We just said the same thing, yo. It's funny you say that.
Yeah. So we have this progression, right? We have it in G sharp minor. And now look, if I go to this other sound, which I have here in Scorch, which is a lead sound, it's showing that it's in G sharp minor. I come here, I go snap incoming MIDI. Now every single note that I play is going to be in key. So now I can just go. Right there. I just created a fire melody and I absolutely had no clue what I was doing. The whole point of this is like, you can create something like that. What I guess I was trying to get at too with AI is like, it can help you create something like that. Well, now you can learn. You can learn, you can come in here and be like, this is what G sharp minor is like. You can start analyzing the notes. You can see what works, what doesn't work, and you can start fooling around. And eventually you can let the AI and let, all these new tools that they're bringing to FL Studio teach you and help you get better at melodies. If I had this when I was 15, at that point, there was literally no YouTube tutorials and stuff. So like I was doing MPC, I was sampling off vinyl and stuff like that. I had no skills and no way to learn. Well, if you're coming up right now, the 15-year-old Jacob will be absolutely over the moon to see something like this, to learn. And this is where you can kind of start to make crazy fire melodies.
Come on, man. Melody gems.
We not only look alike, but we think alike. Because I feel like I was literally saying this, like exactly what you just said. People that get all crazy about the AI stuff and all these new features that come in FL, and they're all worried they're going to take our jobs. It's making it easy for people. And I mean, along our lives and in time, just gradually make people's lives easier.
Yeah,
right?
some things are needlessly difficult.
And like you said too, Jacob, like you can reverse engineer what it's doing. You can learn a ton from this and actually start to make sense of a little bit of music theory just by seeing what this thing did. Now you know what G sharp minor is. You can look at the notes. What notes are in G sharp minor? Little by little, you're learning without even knowing that you're learning.
I 100% agree with you. The shift that we're going through, and it's hard because there's two sides to it. Just to be totally transparent with you guys as well too. Like the next plugin that I'm working on is an AI plugin. And so I've been thinking about this for, almost getting close to 2 years now. Big shouts out to MJ, my partner on the project here. Lemonade, everything that they're doing.
Oh, bro, you partnering up with him?
Yes, yes, yes,
Great.
sir.
He's a great dude,
Yeah.
bro. Met up with him in New York. Great dude.
Yes. You guys should have a conversation about AI because he's the first person that taught me about ethical AI. And so I remember I went to engineering school, and I remember my teacher saying at the time, there was extra money and like, what do we want to buy? And this was around the time that everybody was using autotune, right when like Lil Wayne was going through his crazy autotune phase. And my suggestion was, hey, we should get autotune. And I remember his response was like, if an artist doesn't know how to sing, they shouldn't be in the studio. We don't want to get stuck like that, right? Because that's happened to people that were like, oh, it has to be analog, it can't be digital, and then they get stuck in the past, and it continues to happen. That's what's happening right with AI, and we need to embrace it. But what we're seeing by some of these huge companies, like what was the ones that just got sued, Sudo and Udio or whatever. It's like,
I think we were just talking about that before we hopped on here too.
yeah, we're in this really tricky spot because those guys are trying to tell us, hey, we want to democratize the music industry, but at the same time, they're taking all of our music without compensating us. They're taking all the data, they're training, and then they're charging us credits to make music with it, which is the total opposite of like how I see things. So, you know, for me and MJ getting into the AI stuff, everybody else is saying, hey, how can we do an app in the web browser? Producers don't want an app in the web browser, to be quite honest with you. I think they want a VST. They want something that can help them, like I just showed you with the chord progression tool, something that can inspire. Because I think like an analogy I'll use here is like, for anybody that plays video games, if you turned on your PlayStation or your Xbox, and as soon as you hit play, the game said, wow, you won, congratulations. Would you guys like to play that game?
Nope.
I don't think you would. And I think that the game that those big tech bros that don't care about music, don't care about production are playing is that they are simply trying to allow you to put in an input, and they're taking away all the fun. The fun part is the creative. The fun part is what I just did for you 5 minutes ago when I used this tool to come up with this melody, which wasn't even in my head at the time. And I'm already excited after this call to finish this beat. Those are the important moments. And I think that AI should be something that helps you and doesn't hinder you. And I think what the big companies are doing is just like, they're taking the wrong approach. So with MJ, like we're doing the ethical AI, all of our
I love that
AI
term.
has been, yeah, all of our AI, the producers have been compensated. They're willing to be a part of it because they see AI as the future. And so they're getting compensated. It's allowed us to build these really cool models. And I know we kind of alluded to it before, but like what I was able to do with Trifecta, what me and MJ have done now coming together, it is going to be this awesome kind of starting point for producers, but it still gives you that access of like, you know, having access to the journey, which is the fun creation part. We want to be almost like the AI that you don't even know is AI. You know, it is AI and it's helping you, but at the same time, we don't want to take away all your controls and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to share.
I'm excited for it. I can't wait.
Yeah,
Especially, I was already excited before, and you mentioned earlier. Now that you said you teamed up with MJ and Lemonade, like I can't wait because I really like that dude, and I like what he stands for. I like what he does. Yeah, smart guy. I can't wait to see what you guys have.
Honestly thrilled. It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Oh man, I'm afraid I got some bad news. We gotta wrap it up.
Oh, come on. I thought you said 3 hours, guys. 3 hours.
I wish I could, yo. With a lot of guests that we have on here, especially you, we need another one. We need a part
return.
2.
Yeah,
we need a return. There's way too much to talk about.
Always.
There's way too much to nerd out about. I mean, and the conversation.
He's gonna be on the panel for sure. We were talking about having like a super episode.
Oh man, imagine.
That'd be awesome.
Super app.
I mean, now, like, we can do like we're doing the virtual episode thing, so there's nothing stopping us from having like 10 guests on at once, you know, and just
crazy, like
having like a 2-hour episode and just going crazy with it.
Talking about
That'd
the
be
future.
Wild. Yeah, man. Yep.
We should do like a FL Olympics or something too. I mentioned this to you a while ago, but like we should do a game. I skateboard, and like one of the games you play is skate. So every time, like, you know, you mess up, you get a letter or whatever. We should do something similar like that with like short commands or something where like, again, earlier, how you asked me what's my favorite ones, you should just be like, copy or whatever and see who can do it first. You know, that's a point. The other ones don't, or something like that. Just kind of like see who really got the muscle memory. I'll be training for weeks. You know what I mean? I need to be number one.
In his sleep, just clicking the command.
Yo, we got to do it.
Yeah.
We got to do it.
Yeah.
We're going to do that. Yo, thank you so much for hopping on. I really appreciate it. It was great talking to you, man.
Yes, sir.
So if you want to like drop any socials that you want anybody to follow you at and see what you got coming next, where to grab your plugins that you already have and where to grab the new one when it drops.
Yeah, check out softwareaudio.com. Check us out on Instagram. constantly putting content and stuff there. So definitely check that out. Then I have my personals just at my best friend Jacob if you want to check out my personal. But yeah, if you want to hear more FL tips and stuff, definitely go over to Software Audio. Check that out. We got YouTube, everything popping.
Hell
And
yeah.
always trying to deliver value to the community. I love I think the coolest thing about all this, like maybe even 5-6 years ago, like I wouldn't think that we would have like a podcast like this. You know what
Nah,
I
me
mean?
never in a
Like,
million years.
yeah, so it's really kind of thrilling and cool to see how the community has grown so much in embracing and teaching each other. That's the other thing. I often am seeing stuff online that I'm just like, holy moly, you can do that.
Yeah.
This is crazy. So
Yeah.
yeah, man, I just love being a part of this community.
Me too, man. I and the community loves having you, and I can't thank you enough, man, for the gems that you drop daily
Appreciate it.
and the stuff you got
Appreciate
out there. So yeah, with that being said, please, if you haven't, make sure you go follow Jacob and all of his stuff, and make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and as always, share this with a friend if you get me.